Story 1. My ex had a dark secret. This experience to this day still has me second guessing who people really are. My ex boyfriend Tom was the perfect dream man to me. He was tall, made good money with his job, owned a house on the beach, and knew how to make anyone smile. I was a shy, young girl at the time and didn't feel like I was attractive to anyone. However, when I met Tom, I began to feel like I was truly meant to be in love. If only my younger self would have known better, would have avoided the disaster train that collided with my life. But what can you say? I was young, dumb, and in love. I met Tom at the library. I had immediate butterflies when I saw him. He was so perfect, too perfect. We both were picking out horror books when we saw each other in the aisle. He walked up with a smile that could solve anything. He introduced himself to me, and I did as well. I knew from that first moment that something special could happen. We talked about different books that we liked and other things that interested us. He told me that I was really pretty, and that made me blush with so much excitement. He asked me out on a coffee date at Starbucks. I excitedly told him yes, and we set up to meet at the coffee shop the next day in the morning. We exchanged contact information, and I was nervous, but excited. The next day, I put on a nice skirt and makeup to make myself at least look as pretty as possible. When I got to the coffee shop, Tom was already there. He asked me what I wanted, and I told him my favorite drink. He went up and ordered both of our drinks and came back. When he got back with our order, it was nothing but a talking marathon. We talked about our favorite hobbies, music, TV shows, genre of games, things we like in a relationship, our jobs, our future goals. I fell for him more and more as we talked. He had achieved big goals in his company, and there was nothing that could stop him. I felt like I didn't deserve to belong in the same room as him. He just had a way with words. He also, at the time, came off genuine, honest, caring, supportive. If only I knew what would happen later. At the end of the date, he asked me on a second date, dinner and movies. I told him absolutely. We set the date a week after our first one. Everything went by so fast. I was counting down the days until the date. I thought he was the one. I thought everything would turn out great. Life has a way of throwing curveballs at you, though. The day of the second date came, and it went well again. I gave him my address, and he picked me up in a luxury car, gave me expensive roses. I felt so lucky. The dinner and movie went really well. He did all the gentleman things, holding my hand, opening the door for me, making sure I felt safe and secure. He just knew what to always do. Like I said, Mr. Too Perfect. He dropped me off at my house, walked me to my front door. I kissed him goodnight and told him we should keep seeing each other. And so began the start of our relationship. Date after date, our bond grew stronger through each and every time we were around each other. I felt myself falling deeper in love with him, which makes what happened hurt even more. I eventually decided after a few months to make it official with him. Then, after, I decided to move in with him. This decision ended up being the most regretful one I've ever had. Everything was perfect at first when I moved in. He always paid attention to me, took care of all my needs. I felt like nothing could go possibly wrong. Then, after a few months of moving in, I started noticing different things with him. He was starting to be secretive. He never let me look at his laptop, which I thought was weird. Why was he hiding things from me? He also started not talking to me as much. He started staying out later and later. I thought he must be busy with work. But then the painful thoughts came in. Maybe he was cheating on me. I wish it had been that, or anything else, than what the real truth was. I decided to snoop around his laptop while he was at work. I wish I hadn't. When I opened his laptop, I began looking at his files. I clicked on one that had a bunch of numbers. I saw pictures of children. I won't go into details. Let's just say I was completely disgusted. This whole time, he was collecting inappropriate pictures while we were dating. I never saw it coming. All those files dated back to a couple of years ago. I decided to go on his Facebook Messenger. He was talking to a bunch of underage children. Just pure disgusting stuff. I had enough. I closed the laptop and sat in silence for a while. I was in a state of shock and disbelief. The perfect man was the worst man possible. I felt anger boil over. When he got home, I confronted him about the files and messages. He told me that they weren't his, that it was just a mistake. I knew better. He then threatened me that if I told, I would regret it. I didn't care. I ran out of the house and called the police and reported everything. The police arrested my ex-boyfriend. In the investigation, it turns out that he was part of a trafficking ring. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison. I never dated anyone after this. Couldn't trust anyone. Spent years in therapy. I regret ever meeting him. He has and will always ruin the idea of a happy relationship for me. Story 2. The EX Stalker. My ex-boyfriend and I, let's say, had a bit of a rocky relationship. We were constantly arguing over money, his nights out, and his controlling of me. He was very emotionally abusive to me, talked down to me, made me feel worthless. The final straw came when I caught him cheating on me with another woman. I walked in while they were doing the deed. I simply just left. I grabbed my things and left. He begged me to stay, cried, tried to manipulate me in every possible way, but I never went back. I had grown tired of all the lies. I had moved back with my parents. Luckily for me, my parents were loving. They supported me through everything. They reminded me how special I was, how I matter, that this was not the end of the world. I was able to move on with their support. Unfortunately, my ex did not. It was slow though at first, very subtle. After the initial breakup, he stopped talking to me for a while. However, about a month later, he began to text me again, asking for forgiveness, for one more chance. I didn't budge. I knew that going back was going backwards in my life. I won't lie. If he hadn't cheated on me, I may have went back to him, but my heart could not get over the ultimate betrayal. He then started calling me hundreds of times a day, leaving tons of voicemails, just begging for one more chance. I finally called him. I told him we were done. No more. He betrayed me, hurt me in the worst way. He got really angry. He said that I never really loved him. After that, the calls and messages stopped. I thought that it was over, but it was just the beginning of the nightmare. Started slow, subtle, just coincidences. I would notice him working out at the same gym as me. He would do his grocery shopping at the same time as me. I would go out with my friends to a club. He would be there with his friends as well. I tried to just brush it off as a coincidence, but when it became a daily occurrence, I knew something fishy was going on. Then I started receiving texts from an unknown number. They were just pictures of me at places I was just at or had been at. I was now beginning to get creeped out. I felt like my ex was behind it, but I had no proof. I called him and asked if he was the one doing it, but he denied any involvement. I didn't believe him, but I also didn't know how he would know where I was all the time. Then came the packages. Every day for a week was a package at my door. Inside was just a piece of paper with a different number on it, just to count down backwards. I was beginning to feel that something bad was going to happen. I told my parents, and they told me that I should call the police. I didn't. I should have, though. but I thought I was being paranoid. Nothing was going to happen. I'm just being dramatic. The day came that I received a package with the number 1 on it. I didn't know what it meant. I decided that I had enough. I called my ex and told him that this game was not funny. I threatened to call the police and get a restraining order on him. He didn't take it very well. He told me that to stop accusing him of things he didn't do. He told me that he hasn't bothered me since our last conversation. I told him he was lying and that I have seen him everywhere, and the pictures, the packages. He told me that he wanted to meet me. He wanted to just talk and explain everything. I knew it was a bad idea. I should have said no, but I didn't. I told him that we would meet in a public place for 15 minutes and then it was over. I told my parents what was happening. They weren't happy about it. They thought he was trouble, but I ignored them and went anyways. I wish I hadn't. When I got there at the coffee shop, he was already waiting for me. He told me that he wanted a second chance, that if he messed up, he would leave me alone forever. Again, I told him no, it was over. He lost it. He got mad at me, started calling me names, yelling at me, saying that I hurt him really bad. He finally confessed about the pictures and everything. I told him we were done and left. He tried to grab me and pull me back down, but I smacked him. He went berserk. He grabbed me by the hair and dragged me out. I was screaming for help, but he kept trying to pull me away. Luckily for me, a couple of off-duty cops were walking by. They quickly tackled my ex and handcuffed him. I explained to them what had happened, who he was, and everything that had happened. He ended up getting sent to prison for 10 years for assault and battery charges. I had to spend a ton of time in therapy. It took me a while to recover, but I'm better now. My parents have been very supportive of me in my recovery. I also now carry a taser with me everywhere I go. While I haven't dated since my ex and I broke up, I have begun to be able to enjoy life, spend time with family, friends, and lastly, to my ex-boyfriend, I hope you rot forever in that cell. Story 3. I thought he was just taking the breakup well. My ex and I didn't have the typical normal chaotic breakup. In fact, it was the opposite. We were dating for about 2 years when we decided to end it. There was no chaos, no cheating, no fighting, no screaming matches. We both just wanted to go in different directions. We didn't feel that we were happy with each other anymore. I thought it would be awkward, but it wasn't. It went quite well, actually. He handled it with maturity. He returned my things, wished me the best. He told me that he hopes that I can find someone who can make me happy. The demeanor should have been the first thing off-putting, but I just didn't see it. A few weeks later, while I was grocery shopping, I ran into him. Not the weirdest thing, we live in the same town. We quickly exchange a hello and carry on with our lives. Then, it happens again, at a different store, on the opposite side of the town. Then, it happened at a coffee shop. Eventually, it was also places I have never mentioned to him before, like a bookstore I have never told him about. Every time, he seemed just as surprised as I was, but I just kept telling myself it was a coincidence. Then, when I saw him, he would mention little things, things he would know, like a restaurant I had recently tried, a movie that I may recently saw, or different hobbies or activities I was getting involved with. Nothing huge, just little things. But it was enough to know to keep me wondering how he would know this stuff. When I would ask, he would say, small town, or we still have mutual friends. All perfectly reasonable explanations, but still, the situation still felt off. My suspicions came to light one night. I was scrolling through social media when I noticed something. One of my old fitness apps had him still listed as a connected friend. I went on my settings to see that our location sharing had never been disabled. For the past few months, he knew everything. He knew where I worked, exercised, shopped, where and how I spent my free time. This whole time, he knew everything. I started to get the shivers just thinking about it. What were his true intentions? Why was he following me through all of this? At that moment, I decided to disable everything right there and then. Then, the encounter stopped all of a sudden. For about 2 weeks, nothing happened. However, I then started seeing a very familiar car that was parked right near my apartment. Never saw it every day, but saw it enough to draw notice to it. One night, when I got home late from work, I saw the same car once again, in the same spot. This time, I decided to walk towards it to see who it was. The vehicle pulled away as soon as I got close to it. However, I knew who the driver was. The police couldn't do much about it. I never could provide real proof that he had ill intentions of anything. A few months later, he moved away. At least, that's what people have said. The last creepy thing that happened to me just recently. One night, I had received a notification from a social media account I had never seen before. No profile picture, no friends, no post, just a single message. Looks like you got home early today. I still don't know if that was him or someone messing with me. I do hope it is not him and that it can finally just end. Hi, Mr. Horror Story here. I hope you enjoy the scary stories today. There will be stories every other day or daily, so keep those notifications on. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Feedback is always welcome and encouraged. List any ideas for videos in the comment section. I appreciate you guys for always taking time out of your day to listen to my stories. Thank you for listening, and remember to stay spooky out there.